Well, thank you all for being here so early on Sunday morning. My name is Callum Thwaites, and I'm going to start with something that someone said to me last time I was in Sydney, celebrating the life of a great man. And that was that he shouldn't know my name. And I agree. He should not, and you should not know my name. I should not be here today talking to you. I should be in Brisbane. I should be at the end of my studies, and I should be months from becoming a high school teacher. But I'm not. That's not how my life has panned out. That's not how the world has played out. Instead, my life took a sharp right turn that started on the 28th of May, 2013. I study at the Queensland University of Technology, or QUT, and on the 28th of May, 3 students, one of whom is Alex Wood, an engineering student, went into a computer lab at the Brisbane campus of QUT. Alex and his 2 friends had no idea that the room they walked into was an unsigned, Indigenous-only computer lab. Shortly after entering, quietly, peacefully, and sitting down, a staff member came up to Alex and his friends and asked them if they were Indigenous. They weren't, and they said no. She told them that they weren't allowed to use these facilities, they were for Indigenous students only, and they had to leave. So he did. 45 minutes or so later, after finding another computer, Alex posted on Facebook. In a Facebook group, he said the following: "Just got kicked out of the unsigned Indigenous computer room. QUT stopping segregation with segregation, ... This led to a long string of comments from students at QUT and non-students alike. People were discussing whether or not an Indigenous-only computer lab is a good policy. Some people asked in humour, why is it that it's okay to have an Indigenous-only room but not a white supremacist-only room? And among these comments was a sole comment from a Facebook account portraying itself as me. This isn't, as some ill-informed commentators have tried to say in the past, a hacking. This was a case of a stolen identity. So I'd like to believe that this person that used my name and my picture was trying to catfish people. I doubt it. It was probably not that sophisticated. It was probably just a shitty practical joke. Not too long after Alex's post blew up, the staff member who kicked him out was informed about the post by some students. She decided that because she kicked Alex out of the room and because she is Indigenous, the comments were about her. The jokes about white supremacy weren't jokes about white supremacy to show the absurdity of the policy. They were code for an underground white supremacist movement that now had her in their sights. How she came to this view, when she was never named, never mentioned, is something that we'll probably not know. So she complained to the director of her unit and then to the director of equity at QUT. And she made it very clear that this must be taken further, and the students who participated and those who simply liked the posts must be reprimanded in some way. Those are her words, not mine. So the university contacted a number of the commentators, not all of them, not everyone was a student at QUT, not everyone has a name like Callum Thwaites. Some, for example, have a name like Chris Lee, who also commented on this post and has never been found. This is when I first found out that I'd supposedly made an offensive comment on Facebook. And I was told to remove it. Well, I wrote back, I don't know what you're talking about. And I think you've got the wrong person. So the university told me, oh, don't worry about it. You've got assessment to deal with. We'll look into this. And of course I went, okay, that's fine. You're my university, you've got my back. Little did I know I should have been really worried. So this staff member took such offence to these posts that she took time off work from the 29th of May, indefinitely. She went on workers' compensation while QUT was trying to manage her complaint, which involved changing the unsigned computer lab into a signed swipe card access computer lab to security patrols, to public statements about the unit. But they tried this for a year, and on the 27th of May in 2014, on the last day of the time period that she could do it, she lodged a complaint with the Australian Human Rights Commission alleging racial vilification under Section 18C of the Racial Discrimination Act. She claimed that these comments offended, insulted, humiliated and intimidated her based solely on her race. This complaint was made against QUT, 2 staff members and 7 students, and one of them was me. Now, instead of getting, as you would expect, our involvement in the process to see what happened and what we think, her lawyers requested that the AHRC not notify the students because they were hopeful of settling with QUT. Both the AHRC and QUT said, okay, we agree to this, and left all of the students and the 2 staff members in the dark. This lasted for 14 months, until the 28th of July in 2015, when not the Human Rights Commission, but QUT themselves, out of the blue, emailed me to let me know that A, there was a complaint against me alleging racial vilification, B, the complaint had gone so far as the Australian Human Rights Commission, and C, there was a conciliation conference on the 3rd of August that I could attend if I would like. So instead of having 14 months like the Australian Human Rights Commission had to deal with the complaint, or 26 months like the university had to deal with the complaint, I had 3 business days. As an education student who's never read law before in his life. Some of the other students didn't even find out about the conference and never knew it was happening. I mean, that seems fair. That seems fair, right? So as you can imagine, the conciliation conference achieved nothing. And in October, the complaint became a case in the Federal Circuit Court of Australia. And along with the documents for court, I received a letter that gave me the option of, instead of paying this woman $250,000 that she wanted, I could pay her $5,000 and we would confidentially settle and I wouldn't be called a racist. 3 students took this option and I don't blame them. Well, I didn't have $5,000. I'm not from a well-off family. My father is self-employed and that puts food on the table. That's about it. My mother had recently moved to Maryborough, which is 3.5, 4 hours out of Brisbane, to care for her mother. And I was an unemployed education student that would get $50 every now and again to tutor someone in maths. But even if I had the money, I'm not really sure that I should pay someone for something that I didn't do. So I stood my ground and I represented myself. Thankfully, I was saved from this terrible decision by the good graces of Tony Morris QC. And to be perfectly honest, without him, I don't know where I would be today, but it would not be here. So we got the cases against myself, Alex Wood, and a 3rd student, Jackson Powell, thrown out of the court. We got her attempt to appeal thrown out of the court. And we've helped to show the population that 18C is a perverse encroachment on freedom of speech, and that the AHRC are the gatekeepers who decide what you can and can't say, what you can and can't write, what you can and can't draw. So what is freedom of speech? And why is it so damn important? This is something I've been grasping at for about 6 months now. I'm not a libertarian. I'm not really a political monster. Well, I wasn't. It's taken me a long time to get to this point. And if you'd asked me this 6 months ago, I would have been, look, free speech is important, but how important? I believe wholeheartedly in free speech now, and I will defend it to my end. We have to have the freedom to express, the freedom to discuss, to debate, and most importantly, to disagree. Freedom of speech does not mean freedom from critique, freedom from criticism, or freedom from offence. If we can't express views that might be critical of others or their ideas, or a view that could offend, we can't express anything. And how can we share ideas in a world where the very sharing of the ideas is stifled? We need to be able to hold government and institutions to account when they're creating policy that's bad or wrong, like a separate room for Indigenous people only. No whites allowed. How can we stop these ideas if we cannot be free to talk about them, regardless of the offence that might be taken? Thank you.